Hey everybody, Roxabox90 here with some spoilers. The biggest spoiler of all is the revealing of the modern event deck list. And we have here the most important thing to notice, I think, just in terms of consistency, is that they changed the text of the box. Leaders like Elspeth Nighterent. If we go back over to our mock-up image, you see here leaders like Hero Bladehold and Elspeth Nighterent. Why did they take it out? Because Hero Bladehold is not in the deck. We only have 5 creatures. No Hero Bladehold. Instead, our Mythic is Sword of Feast and Famine. That's replacing Hero Bladehold. And in my mind, I'm like, what? Why Sword of Feast and Famine? It seems very arbitrary. Really, it does. I mean, Sword of Feast and Famine is being printed as a judge foil. So we have a printing of Sword of Feast and Famine if we're worried about its value, if we want to get more foil versions out there, whatever the reason. But why Sword of Feast and Famine in this deck? This deck is a black-white aggressive deck. In my opinion, Sword of War and Peace is a much more aggressive sword. If you look at War and Peace, you see that it's about dealing damage to players that hold onto cards in hand, and you gain life. So it's very good against other aggro decks, and it really hurts control builds, which for me, it's like, okay, that makes a lot more sense than a card like Sword of Feast and Famine. That being said, it is a value card. It's worth money, as is Elspeth Nighterent. Although, why Elspeth Nighterent? Again, if we're dealing with a very creature-heavy deck, or creature token deck, which we are, we'll get to that in a second, Elspeth Nighterent, why don't we have Sun's Champion? Nighterent was just printed in Modern Masters, and on top of the fact that it has its multiple printings, it's 2-3 printings, it also doesn't connect at all to our modern standard base. So why Elspeth Nighterent? If this had one Elspeth Sun's Champion, you could put one more in, and boom, you got your endgame Planeswalker. Elspeth Nighterent is usually not an endgame Planeswalker, and especially with the fact that this deck is very token based. It's aggressive. What kind of creatures do we have here? We have here, we have 3 Honor the Pure, 4 Intangible Virtue. That's supposed to help tokens, and we have 4 Lingering Souls, 4 Raise the Alarms, 2 Shrine of Loyal Legion, 4 Spectral Procession. That's a lot of tokens. And then Soul Wardens to gain life, and Tidal Scholar to be a control card, I guess, and it's aggressive. So we have a whole bunch of tokens, tons of tokens going on. So yeah, I don't understand the Elspeth choice. I don't understand this sort of Feast and Famine. It seems like 2 arbitrary money cards that we want to fit into the deck. Honestly, I especially because black-green, well, most of the other aggro decks that a tier 2, tier 3 deck like this isn't a tier 1 deck, and it's not going to compete with tier 1 decks really. It's going to be facing, it's not going to be facing decks where Sword of Feast and Famine is going to be as useful, I think, as Sword of War and Peace. Then here we have 3 Zealous Persecution, always good with tokens. We got 3 Path to Exiles for our value, and 2 Inquisition of Kozilek for value. Those are all great control removal cards. And then for lands, we have 4 Wimper's Heights, 1 Vault the Archangel, which is great, some basics, 4 Isolated Chapel, 4 Caves of Kolois, 2 City of Brass. So no Mana Confluence. Again, this set was made before, so there's no Mana Confluence. There's also no Marsh Flats. Mana Confluence makes sense because there hadn't been made yet, even though Wizards probably knew about it in the back of their minds. But no Marsh Flats, no Godless Shrines for a deck you're charging $70+ for in cash, and there's no Marsh Flats, no Godless Shrines. That's pretty painful. I mean, anyone who wants to run this deck competitively will need to have some of those. You couldn't put 2 Godless Shrines in here, or 1 Marsh Flat, because this deck was being made when Marsh Flat was $30 or $30 to $40. So that's very strange. You could easily take out 1 or 2 of the Wimper's Heights, at least 1 of the Wimper's Heights, and put 1 of those in, just for value, please. So overall, and then the sideboard's kind of irrelevant. Ghost Quarters instead of Tech Edges, again, bringing value down. Tech Edges are obviously better. Then we have Kataki Warwage, not bad. Relic of Progenitus, it's decent. 2 Dismembers. It's fine. Sideboard is fine. So overall, the deck seems very playable out of the box, and I think it will be playable at a more local modern tournament. I don't think this deck is a good building point for real competitive play because it won't be able to compete with the decks out there. It also doesn't have a modern built land base, and that it really doesn't have a lot of support. We don't have Godless Shrines, we don't have Marsh Flats going on here. And the value of this deck, I think, is pretty low. Elspeth, swords, and yeah, paths and inquisitions, but things you can get these played for very cheap compared for what you're paying for this deck. There's no card here above $20, $25, which is painful, given that they want you to spend so much money. I mean, think about it. We had an event deck where Verdant Catacombs was printed in a $35 deck. And yeah, it wasn't $70 that it is now, but seriously? So overall, I don't think, given that most stores will probably charge upwards of $100 for this, I really don't know if it's worth it. It's not really amazing, and I hope that players who really just want to play with it, because I do think it could work as a playable deck. I think players who just want to be able to play with it, the deck is fine out of the box to play with. I think that's really where it's good. It's a consistent playable deck, but you're not getting value for it, and some of the card choices are probably not going to be going to work. Then we got also just going to mention that we have Vintage Masters info coming out. This is an online MTGO only set, but what we found out is that the Power 9 are going to be printing it in MTGO, not in print, which is why it deals with the reserve list issue, but it says they're going to be twice as rare as any specific Mythic. Yawgmoth's Will, which is a really great card, is going to be printed at Mythic, so here the example, 2 Yawgmoth's Wills will be in print for every Ancestral Recall, which means they're going to be very low in numbers. Dual lands are going to be in the set, and the set's going to be really big, 30 Mythics, 105 rares at least. In terms of, we don't know the commons and uncommons count, I don't think, but still, that's a huge amount, especially if the dual lands are not 10 of the Mythics, then it's pretty insane. And we also got here Control Magic, Necropotence, Goblin Warchief, all really powerful, great cards. Arrogant Worm, Goblin General, and Circular Logic are all commons because they're all really strong, but this set seems to be even stronger. And yeah, it seems fine. We'll hear more Vintage Master stuff as it comes out. And last up, we have an upcoming F&M promo for Magma Spray, supposedly. I don't know if this isn't 100% confirmed, but it was found in MTGO with new art and everything, so it could very well be the case. The art is awesome. This is Koth, I believe, and it's nice to see him being just briefly shown in a card. The art is really cool, and the card itself does see play. I've even seen it in modern sideboards and stuff. So, wow, those are all the spoilers, the main one being the modern event deck. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about this deck down below in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed the video, tap the like button. If you're new to the channel, check in and subscribe. And as always, Roxabox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.